Alrighty folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games. In today's video, we are once again discussing and predicting just when we can expect to see Metroid Prime 4 Beyond both show up in a presentation or get a new trailer, but also the actual release date, because after the Kirby Air Riders Direct, I know a lot of people have been dooming, saying, well, because they've been focusing on one game at a time, that must mean that Metroid is coming out after Kirby Air Riders. I definitely disagree with that. It is odd. There's no denying that. It is odd that they showed that first if we're going to say that Prime 4 Beyond is coming out a little bit earlier than Kirby, but I think there is still reason to think that it could be even an October title or maybe early November before Kirby Air Riders. And the first thing I want to dive into in today's video is something that popped up on the Nintendo website late last night, and that is that Prime 4 Beyond now has an ESRB rating. Now, at first I was like, okay, well, maybe this has been there for a while and, nobody caught it, although based on how people are analyzing everything about Metroid Prime 4, I think somebody would have noticed it. This popped up yesterday, and it's seemingly a very, very fresh trademark, because if you go over to the ESRB website where you can search each game, they don't even have it registered on here yet. So this is fresh. This is a very new development here, that the game is ESRB rated according to the Nintendo.com website, and that is very noteworthy, because typically when a game is ESRB rated, that means it is close to release, right? It is content complete. Maybe they're doing some polishing still, but they're not like doing any crazy things that would change that rating, right? The game's development is essentially done. Now they're just polishing it up. And usually these pop up pretty close to release. Oftentimes for Nintendo games recently, the game is announced and it's already rated, right? Like Echoes of Wisdom, I believe, and Mario Wonder. I want to say these were already rated. If they weren't rated, they were rated very quickly after those reveals, and then of course they came out in the holiday period. But usually if a game is ESRB rated, it's not getting delayed. It's coming out in the very near future. Now, it is worth noting that another first-party Nintendo game has also already been rated, and that is Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. This was shown in the partner showcase at the end of July, and during that trailer, they have the T rating pop up. So that game's already rated. However, based on the wording that they've been using, saying this winter for that game, I think it's a relatively safe assumption that it's coming out after Metroid Prime 4, even though it was rated before. So obviously an ESRB rating is not a ends-all be-all like a sign or indicator that a game is imminent exactly, but I do think that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond being rated right now, when everybody's dooming about it being delayed, I think that's a very good sign. I think it means that things are progressing along just as they should be, and hopefully we can see some information from Nintendo in the very near future. And when I say very near, I think it is possible that we are going to have our eyes on this game in a new trailer and release dates as soon as next week. And I have a couple of reasons for thinking this. So I think most people would agree that there will be some sort of September Direct, and I think that is very possible, be that a general Direct or maybe just a Mario Anniversary Direct. I think is also possible, but I don't fully buy into it as much as some other people, but it's certainly a possibility, because right now there's nothing dated for September, and I don't think there's really anything else other than some sort of Mario Shadow Drop that could fit into September, and I don't really see Nintendo going a full month without a release on the Switch 2. I think that'd be really weird when they could have just moved Dragon Drive and Kirby around a little bit, or Mario Party or something. So I feel like there is something in September, be that Mario Galaxy 2 or Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition, or maybe if it's a general, they could shadow drop something else. I throw around the idea of a Pikmin 4 Switch 2 edition quite often. That could be one that they announce and release very quickly. But I personally feel that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond at this stage is very unlikely to release in September. They could do it. They've done very quick turnarounds before, but considering what this is and considering it is a wholly new game, even though we've had technically bigger releases like 3D All-Stars released and kind of shadow dropped within like a 2 to 3 week period, Prime 4 is a new game. Even if it's not anywhere near that scale in terms of hype or sales potential, Prime 4 still needs marketing. It is a new product, it is a new game. They're going to want to actually market it and ramp that up a little bit more than they would one of those shadow drop or very quick turnaround release dates kind of announcements. So for me, I think September's off the table for this game. I do think early October, though, is extremely possible, and that's actually still where I think this game is going to end up slotting in. So here's my current thinking, right? We got the ESRB rating yesterday. We had the Kirby Air Riders Direct just a couple of days ago. every week since the Switch 2 came out, we've pretty much almost always had some sorts of news. Some of that news is much smaller, some of that news is much bigger. But if you look at like the cadence of announcements and news since the Switch 2 was announced, you know, people are complaining that there's nothing to talk about, and I do kind of feel that same energy, but at the same time, when you look at the reality of it, there's been news almost every single week. We've had several presentations, several directs, be that the Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct, or now the Kirby one, we had the Indie World, we had the Partner Showcase. Smaller weeks might include just like a Chibi Robo Switch Online announcement and My Mario, but the point is, we've pretty much consistently, since the Switch 2 came out, always had at least one thing to talk about, at least one piece of news, even if it's just like a Jamboree TV overview trailer, you know? We're always getting news since the Switch 2 came out. Splatoon Raiders was a big one, 1 week. So long story short, I think we are going to see Metroid Prime 4 Beyond next week, and I think a big part of that is PAX West. Now, I'm not saying I think the game will be playable necessarily at PAX West to the public, but if you look at how Nintendo has treated these events in past years, and even just this past week with Gamescom, they announced that Kirby Air Riders Direct on a Monday, and it happened on Tuesday. And you know why it happened on Tuesday? Because the press were playing it literally the next day. That Kirby Air Riders Direct was positioned in such a way that press and media, and even the public, I believe, were playing it at Gamescom basically at the same time as the Direct happening. And we've seen them do this before. Back in 2023, they did this with Mario Wonder. I was one of the first people in the world to go hands-on with that game at PAX West because they had a Mario Wonder Direct. I want to say it was the morning that PAX West started. Like, it was literally that day that they did a Mario Wonder Direct. Or even just last year, I want to say they released trailers for Echoes of Wisdom and even Jamboree, I believe, during PAX, and what do you know, both of those games were playable. So my point is, for the past couple of years now, they've tied in something with PAX West, and right now we already know that Kirby Air Riders and Pokemon will be playable there. Prime 4 is suspiciously absent. It's playable at Gamescom, but for some reason it's nowhere to be seen at PAX West, and I find that very strange. So even though I don't think the public will be playing it necessarily, I think there is a good chance that next week on, let's say, Wednesday or Thursday, they drop a Prime 4 trailer, maybe a full direct, I'm not sure, but I'm just going to say a trailer with a release date, and then the next day, the likes of like IGN and Nintendo Life get to go behind closed doors at PAX West and get their hands on a new demo. Not the same demo that I played back in April, but a new demo that actually lets people go hands-on with Samus's psychic abilities. I think this is extremely likely, to be honest. I could be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong about so many things. Predicting Nintendo's marketing has been a total crapshoot recently, but I'm feeling pretty confident that we are going to see this game next week. And if I am wrong, then yeah, I'll eat my hat and I'll go back to thinking, okay, September Direct or something. But if they show it next week and we get a release date and it's playable at PAX West for press, I think an October 2nd release date is still on the table. I think September, we're a little out of that range, but a full month and some change, October 2nd, that's 2 weeks before Pokemon, that's about a month and a half before Kirby Air Riders. That gives them plenty of leeway to have anything else they need to slot in. And I think the important thing to note with Prime 4, when comparing it to Kirby Air Riders as, you know, the big holiday game or whatever, Kirby is a Switch 2 exclusive. Metroid Prime 4 is not. Switch 1 owners have not had a game to play on their Nintendo Switch since March, when Xenoblade X released. Of course, there's been third-party stuff, but in terms of the first-party, you know, games that people really come to their Switch for, there hasn't been much. There's been a lot of indie games, cozy games, that kind of thing. To the point that it makes me even want to say, like, well, maybe Prime 4 is September, because going that long, all the way from March to October, is a bit ridiculous, I'm going to be honest, for no Switch 1 games to release. But I guess you could maybe argue that's too close to Pokemon, which is also a Switch 1 game. Maybe you put Metroid Prime 4 Beyond out in early November, about 2 weeks before Kirby Air Riders, and then that way you have a Switch 1 game and a Switch 2 game releasing in the same month, because I still believe and think that there could be other things we don't know about releasing this year. Be that, you know, some Switch 2 editions that pop up, be that, you know, Woolly World is one that we've talked about ad nauseum on this channel ever since it popped up in the April 2nd showcase. I think there are more games coming out this year than we know about. I think Nintendo is just really holding their cards close to their chest, which, as someone who covers Nintendo like this so obsessively, it is a little frustrating and a little annoying. It's like, okay, just tell us, you know, let us know what's coming out. Right now, September and October are looking absolutely stacked, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out what games I'll have time to play in these 2 months. We don't even know what Nintendo really has planned for these 2 months yet. It's possible they're empty, but I think that is extremely unlikely. They would have moved things around. So for me, I think Prime 4, early October, Mario something or other in September, or some sort of other shadow drop, maybe another 99 game even, something at least, you know, even though that's a smaller thing, it's still something new to play. Maybe that could be a September direct shadow drop. And then Hyrule Warriors, I mean, that, like we talked about, that's already rated by the ESRB. I know they've been saying that game is just this winter. They have not been saying 2025. I still think it's coming out this year, though. That is another one where, let's say I'm right about Prime 4, and that's October 2nd. Then what, 2 weeks later, you have Pokemon on, I think it's the 16th, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Hyrule Warriors is even before Kirby Air Riders, to be real with you. It could be December. They don't typically do December games too often, but I mean, I don't know. A Warriors game can slot in there fine. I feel like you'd want to get Zelda out before Black Friday, though. But if we had early October Metroid, middle of October Pokemon, early November Hyrule Warriors, and then late November Kirby Air Riders, I mean, that would be a banger 2 months, right? That would be an incredible 2 months, filled in with September having some smaller things, and then maybe a smaller thing in December as well. That would be a fantastic holiday lineup, and I think that is a realistic scenario here. I really do think that is like a pretty reasonable outcome of what we know. It's just weird, you know, because we're this close to the clock buzzing and Nintendo hasn't told us. But until we get to like mid-September, I'm not gonna, you know, completely falter on this idea of all these games actually coming out this year, because we've seen them do it in years past, specifically in 2020. We always got to bring it up. Age of Calamity was announced in September. That entire game's existence was announced in September, and it released in November. So here I am sitting in the middle of August, and yeah, I think October for Metroid and November for Hyrule Warriors once again could totally make sense and isn't too quick of a turnaround for the marketing. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond getting its ESRB rating? Do you think it means the release is coming soon? Do you think this game is delayed? I know there's a lot of people that are really dooming about it being delayed. I just don't think so. I don't think they would have showed it at Gamescom last week if it was getting delayed, right? I just don't know why you would go to the effort of so heavily marketing it as a 2025 game if you weren't truly confident it's actually releasing. I think, if anything, Nintendo was less sure of a game like Kirby Air Riders releasing, and they needed to wait and see when that would slot in before they made the final adjustments to Prime 4, or maybe it was Hyrule Warriors or whatever else, maybe unannounced game. I think they needed to wait and see all the chips on the playing field before they wanted to start dating things. And now, maybe some point in August or even late July, that happened. They got the go-ahead, and they're like, okay, Kirby's ready, Prime's ready, Hyrule Warriors is ready. We can start actually dating these things in the sequence that they will be ready and you know, good to go. And maybe that's what happened. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. It's a very interesting situation. I think it is extremely likely we see this game within the next, 14 days, but I'll go as far as to say next week before PAX West. But let me know what you think of all that in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 coverage and news. I posted a video over on my second channel at It's Amiibo talking about the Trails in the Sky First Chapter remake today. It's getting a Switch 2 version that was announced last night, as well as a demo that's out now. So if you want to hear me talk about that game for a while, definitely go check out that. And until next time, folks, peace.